Thank you guys for coming back to our channel. It's your boy Jamal Kyle, always here with my boy.
Your boy Rob.
So we wanted to try a new initiative where we gather our friends and pillars of the community to address various issues that we deal with as black men. What do you feel about that?
We wanted to have meaningful conversations with each other about how we can improve as people, improve as our community, and continue to grow beyond the things that have been put in front of us as obstacles as well.
I definitely think that one thing that gets overlooked is black men's mental health. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the key focuses that we want to address here is that we deal with stuff from our past that we haven't faced, stuff that we're dealing with today that we are navigating and trying to face. So we wanted to create an outlet for black men to relax, to sit back, enjoy a good meal, and enjoy a conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest, my friend from long time, my boy Calvin Hyman, co-founder of Crown Mass Caribbean
Street Carnival.
Thank you.
Caribbean. You're not allowed to say it anymore because the rights are owned by someone. But yes.
As well as spin instructor over at Six Cycle.
Yes.
Actually, I'm gonna let my man plug his business. So go ahead, my man.
So right now, teaching Sundays 11:30. We're outside because obviously with everything going on, restrictions and whatnot. We're across the street at Miss Littlemore's patio, so it's a local Caribbean spot. They just popped up.
Oh,
super gracious.
This is new.
Yeah, it's only been around for maybe two months now.
What's the name of the spot?
Miss Littlemore's.
Miss Littlemore's, yo.
Shout out.
We're gonna hit that up.
We're gonna be
hit that up.
Just
Miss Littlemore's.
Yes.
So we thank you for being here.
Thank
As
you.
always, my guy.
Yes.
My guy, Mr. Mark Robinson Weeks, good friend of mine for going on a decade now. He is a mastery of education educator, and he's somebody who I do look up to from a standpoint of somebody who is a pillar in his community, who has taken it upon himself to see the importance of the education system and how we need representation as black men in the education system. So Mark, thank you very, very much for being here. I appreciate it. You already know, I have a high regard for you and what you do, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate you having me here, and it really just makes it a very meaningful conversation for all of us to be here, to sit around the table, enjoy a good meal, and we kind of have to bless the food.
Oh, okay.
Bless the food.
You getting mad at the house? You point to me.
All right.
You know what? I'll bless the food.
Pastor Kyle, let's do it.
Lord, we thank you for allowing us to come here as men, to congregate and to fellowship with one another. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the hands that prepared this meal. Bless and sanctify this meal. Remove any impurities. Provide for those who don't have and those who are in need. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Gentlemen, salute. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
I mean, so I guess what really brings all of us here is, it came to mind, two words came to mind, was purpose. I think everything you do is with purpose, and everything you guys do here is with purpose. The second thing I think about what brings us here is something shared between us. I consider each person in this room, and I've worked with you individually, sometimes in pairs, and I think that what brings us here together is one word, which is, I think, brotherhood. And is there one word that comes to mind when I say brotherhood that has to be there?
Trust is a big factor. My name is my name, and I say that in the sense of, if I'm putting myself on the line to promote somebody, to give somebody kudos, to put somebody's name out there, I speak highly of them, because I'm not going to do that for everybody. So in that, I need to trust that you are going to deliver on something and be a man of your word. I think that one of the biggest things that I can expect from another man, another black man, is that we are men of our word, because
That's a big thing. With accountability.
100%. Because with us, some of us, as we grew, we didn't have men and figures there to properly show us exactly and hold us accountable. And some of we got away with certain things that maybe we shouldn't have, and added to our privilege, so to speak, or different things. So for us, accountability is huge.
I don't think we truly understand that word, accountability, amongst brothers. Because that goes vice versa for the good and the bad.
Yeah.
We see our mans cheating all the time. sir. A man's doing dirty all the time. Do you hold your brother accountable, or do you condone his ways?
That's big, especially at the age we're at, where and you guys probably can speak to it too. It's like, remember all those things like your parents would tell you, like when you get my age, you'll understand. Like, well, I think we're starting to come up around that age where we start to see it.
100%.
And one of those big things is like relationships, where you're just like, your point, like everybody wants to be the man. Everybody wants to, you know what I mean? But it's like, if you see your brother doing something you know he shouldn't be doing, you don't want to kill the vibe, but at the end of the day, you just slide to him and say, listen, man, you got a really good woman at home. And at the end of the day, all you got to do is put perspective. You know, you just got to be like, short-term gain, you know what I mean? Like, then you got to let them know. But put it in perspective, like, I'm not killing your mood, I'm just reminding you. That's all it is.
So, I mean, I think you guys brought up trust, and I think trust is a huge thing. You got to have trust. First and foremost, you can't do anything without having trust in yourself and your ability to do something, your ability to be there for people. Accountability is huge, because I feel like too often, as you guys brought up, that we'll sit back and watch the nonsense go on. Our standard for behavior, our standard for accountability, our standard for trust, I feel like needs to be through the roof. Now, obviously, it has to be realistic, but I mean, I think for black men, seeing it, I feel like we're attacked on a daily basis.
Definitely.
And it's not always through everybody else. Sometimes I'm sitting down there attacking myself, and I'm having all these thoughts going through my head. I mean, I said for me, mental health is a struggle on a daily basis, and that started from young.
Every day.
Because, you know, I gotta see myself how I see myself. I gotta see myself how others see me.
That's important.
And then it's like, well, I gotta have to see myself how I imagine myself down the line. And it's really tough.
I'm gonna speak to that because, and I'm gonna get vulnerable. Because
That was actually my word, sorry. I was going to say vulnerability is the key thing we need amongst us.
And because you guys know me, I'm the joker guy.
Yeah.
I'm the funny guy in the group. But to be the funny guy in the group, no one takes you serious. So there are times when you feel, what's the word I'm looking for? More, I don't want to say out as an outcast, but you feel like no one takes you serious. And you may be dealing with something, you may be in the midst of a storm, of shit. And, you know, looking at you as the Joker guy.
Yeah. I mean,
I can actually speak to that right quick. So me and Kyle know each other a long time, and we had a class together, musical theater. Kyle's a character. I started to come out of my shell a little bit being around him, and right before like our performance, like this is our mark. We're in the atrium and we're joking around and like, you know, kicking shots, just roasting each other. And the one thing I remember, like we actually almost got into a fight, like throwing hands, like remember we're supposed to perform. We're supposed to perform.
Side note: if you've never almost thrown hands with your brethren, you guys aren't brethren.
Because like Kyle will go in. People don't know. Kyle's one of those dudes where there's no finish line for him. He will go in. And it was one of those. Listen. It was one of those things where, like, it started to get a little personal because men were talking about each other's gear and stuff like that. And I just remembered. I thought about it later on down the line, like why we let it get to that. And eventually, it got to the toxic family, and whose family works harder, whose family went through more. And honestly, man, to this day, I tell you, bro, I'm like straight up, like I apologize if I ever made you feel like that. Cause no, real talk. Because it's one of those things, man. Like it was a vulnerable moment, and I should have seen that. I should have seen that it was going too far. And once, like, you know how hard your moms work. I know how hard my families work. And it's one of those type of things you got to be able to see them in each other. That's where we were competing to say, you know what I mean. And that's where you can't do that. You know what I mean? And that's why that was a moment where you were being Kyle, or for a split second, that sliver of vulnerability opened up and, like, you know, we got emotional. But long story short, we ended up killing the performance. Like, that performance was insane. Like, people were dying.
That's what it's about.
And yeah, we came together and figured it out. And I think since then, me and you never even bumped heads because it's just like, You know what I mean? We understand each other's dynamic. You know what I mean?
And I think once you would have that clash amongst brothers, you guys have that understanding.
And I think we've all had it. I've had it with Mark. Me and Colin,
You guys definitely.
Colin definitely gone at it a few
To
times.
this day, Jesus be.
But you know what? And you know what? For me, there's nothing wrong with being able to give him criticism. For me to be able to have a conversation with him, because I feel like once we can learn, one thing that I told myself I never wanted to be was the kind of man that was beyond learning more about myself and about other things. If I become the man who has said, I know it all, don't tell me anything, I don't want to hear what you have to say, that's when you become narrow-minded. And when you can stay out of that mind frame and continue to always be open-minded to your brothers around you, your relationships, whether they be romantic or not romantic, you have to be able to be receptive, because none of us are perfect at all.
I think that's key, because I think part of brotherhood and fellowship is being able to draw from your brothers around you. I think in a group setting, I think you should always be inspired by those around you. You should, and not necessarily inspired in competition sense, as we were saying before, but pushing your brother to chase his dreams, go after his ambitions. And I think we don't do that enough.
No, I mean, I think. Sorry, I just feel like, for me, it's touched a moment where you're talking about vulnerability and pushing your brother. Because, I mean, for me personally, I never had that. That first role model I had was out the door. So I had a hard time trusting people, but trusting men. If you're not from the ends, if you're not from where I live, I'd look at another black man and I think, yo, from a kid, I'm like, yo, you're a threat. And, you know, it's unfortunate because I see that playing out a lot of times now.
That's true.
Where, you know, we're looking at each other as a threat instead of saying, you know what, I can be my brother's keeper. I can have enough trust that him harming me is a harm to himself. And I think that's a real important thing, because I met you guys. I met you guys as a lone wolf. I met you guys
on edge.
On edge, you guys can
This guy
speak
used
to
to sit in the locker room like by himself.
Headphones on,
just chilling by himself.
It's a scary man, though. But the man not saying that.
It came from I personally, and that's my own kind of trauma. I couldn't be vulnerable with anybody because,
to be honest with you, I always wondered why you were like that. Like when this guy first came, I didn't like him. I didn't like him. Only because he was just like, you're standoffish. I didn't like this guy. It wasn't until we actually kicked it until I found out, like, Manzo was just like.
So that fear and that, if you're not from around me, it hurts because I couldn't be vulnerable with people I'm supposed to trust most in my community, and then it affects the way I relate.
I feel like that's one of the things, one of the narratives that we definitely need to change in terms of, I don't trust you because I don't know you. I feel like as black men, we should have that type of collectiveness where, if I see you on the road and I don't know you, I'm gonna help you out. Yo, my brother, what's going on? You ever had that moment where you see that you see that black guy and they give you a head nod? It's like
you'll be type of been in rooms and people will see me, and like I've been at the grocery store, whatever, and I have other ethnicities around me, and they're like, "Oh, you know that guy?" I'm like, "Nah, I just don't know the black guy." You know,
exactly.
Like myself, I work downtown, right? And obviously when we're downtown like that, when we're in the office, anytime I see a bad man, I give him the head nod. If he gives it back, I'm like, all right, we're still fighting the fight. You feel me?
Exactly.
Listen, we're out here in the corporate
Give
environment.
your brothers the head nod.
Give us the head nod. Because when you look at me, you see me give you a visible head nod, you look at me, like, look through me, I'm like, oh, man.
See, man, I feel like that's just an affirmation. Like,
just,
you know what I'm saying? Give me that affirmation that
we're here.
You can look me in the eye, because if I see someone, I'm walking down, I'm like,
and at the end of the day, if something goes down, you and that brother were like,
you
got me?
Exactly.
Where something happens and you look at the next menu. So I definitely feel like we do that. That's one of the narratives that needs to change. We need to be more friendly with him, more welcoming to one another. Screwface, especially in Toronto.
Oh, man.
It's not.
You have to grill a man and stare at a man just to size him up to show their dominance.
I feel like it's counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. If you can't see me as your brother and value my life enough, what does that say about us? Is that you have some kind of anti-black sentiments to you where you can't recognize my life as valuable as your own? I think a lot of times, like, that's one of the things that's very underrated. Like, we can only be strong together. We can only be a community together. Your life, if you lose your life, that hurts me.
Yeah.
Some of the most storied communities, some of the communities that have developed the most over time, started with a system of bartering where people just trusted each other to do their part. Do you know how different, like, if I can trust that you're going to do your part, you're going to do your part, you're going to do your part, all I need to do is my part.
As a collective, we're selfish.
And we need to become more selfish.
But I mean, do you think that's
selfish?
Sorry, do you think that's something that is placed upon us from being here? Is it a learned behavior while we've been here?
It's survival.
Or is it passed down through generations? Is it a survival tactic?
I think we're selfish based on survival. The need for survival makes us. No.
I think it's not just one thing. I believe that.
Okay, it's multiple.
It's passed down from generation to generation.
So
this whole single father or single mother, not taking care of their kids. That's generational. This is something that's been going on for a while.
So I mean, I really want to pick up on something you said, because if it's generational, how is it that we're really imagining ourselves differently then? And what is in place so that we're imagining ourselves going forward, whether for the future of our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren? How do we imagine it being different where we're together as a community? Like, I want to know what that vision looks like.
For me, as somebody who is a father, I will say that I think there's certain things that life has to teach you. There are certain things that life has to show you before you can feel any sort of way about it. I think parenthood is one of those things. Man or woman, parenthood is one of those things. There's no preparation. You could be rich, you could be poor, you could be together, you could be single, you could be alone. It doesn't matter. Nobody's ever ready for that kind of thing. Being an adult is also one of those things. No matter what our parents told us, our teachers, our guidance counselors, whoever told us, this is what it's going to be like. Enjoy your youth, and we didn't necessarily listen. So there's certain things that life does have to teach us. At the same time, that vision for our future, that becomes clear when we take that accountability and we say we're going to put down the pillars to build for the future. Because communities, other races, other communities have built based on things that their forefathers were doing because they knew it was a sacrifice they made for the others. We need to learn the art of sacrifice and not always living for instant gratification.
Yes,
because of so many different reasons, instant gratification has become what we crave. But when we can think to 5 years, 10 years, when you can think to when you're not alive, when you have the ability to think to when your children are living on after you, that is when we really start to get that ball rolling. Because that's when we really pass it along. And I think in order to do that, we need to remember it is a collective effort. Being a parent isn't easy. Being a black man isn't easy. However, easy isn't the road that is going to get us to where we need to get to.
So Rob, can you define parent?
Being a parent is understanding that the needs of your children and sacrificing your personal needs is something that you're going to have to do.
So more specifically, define being a black man as a parent.
As a black man, as a black parent, what I will say is that not having a father myself, my biggest thing was being as active as possible in my children's lives because I want them to always feel love. There were many times where I didn't feel love. And it wasn't just not that I didn't feel love. I didn't feel love by black men because the most important black man in my life wasn't there. And for me, that was something that I felt that pain, and I told myself I would never put that upon my children. But beyond that, whether it's the music, whether it's my mother's influence, whether it's the other good men that I did see around me, taught me that as a man, one of the things that as a man you are supposed to do is put your family first. Whether your family is just your children, whether your family is your wife, whether you're a single man and you only have one kid, that is your family. And you have to be able to sacrifice for the betterment of your family if it means that you may lose some of your own personal luxuries.
So, I mean...
No, sorry, not to cut you off, and I think it gets back to what you were saying about generational and what he just said about family and the fact that most of our fathers weren't a part of our lives as children. And this is something that has been going on for a while. This is something that's been going on throughout generations. And that's the one thing and the one narrative that we need to change is black men need to be fathers.
Active.
Can I ask something? Just because this is like a perfect storm, because I've been thinking about this lately. Because you're a father, you're an educator. And I was just thinking, like, what are we telling our young black men as they go out into the world? Do we teach them to be T'Challa, or do we teach them to be Killmonger? Do we teach them to be Malcolm? Do we teach them to be Martin?
You teach them that it's okay to be both. Now, this is what I'll say. As a father of a girl, it is a little bit different, but I've coached young men. I've been coaching football for 10 years, over 10 years. And I'd say that I've interacted with a lot of young men, and there are some that I have taken a more hands-on approach to, some of them that I've become mentors with. And I'll say that I've taught them, my biggest thing is I speak at schools, and I'll go there in a three-piece suit, right? And I'll start talking a certain way. Sometimes look at me, okay, this guy's a square. I'll lose them. I'll lose them.
Can't be a square.
You know what? But the thing is, you know what it is? Hold on. So I'll lose them, but then mid-conversation, I'll throw in a mandem. I'll throw in a vernacular, and then they're like, huh? And I look at them and I say to them all the time, me and you are not that different. I'm much older, but the man you see in the suit is the same man at 6 p.m. I'm in sweats and sneakers, and I'm playing dominoes with my dogs, because you're allowed to be both. You can be educated and still listen to rap. You can be all these different things. You can be multifaceted. Everybody is so concerned with being hard all the time, being this, being that. You don't let nobody put you in a bubble. You can be multifaceted.
I teach every day. You know, hundreds of black students. I see them all the time. And part of being a father is I look at them all. It's on a grand scale. I look at them all like my children. We all have a collective goal. And then at the same time, I'm looking at it like, I don't look at it as you have to be Malcolm or Martin. First of all, be yourself. You being yourself is being black. Whether you don't like black things, stereotypical black things, whether you like things that have nothing to do with blackness, you make space for yourself in there. You ask the necessary questions, and you go about life in that way where this doesn't exist. I mean, I was having this conversation with my sister the other day. I was saying, man, I love dogs. I would love to buy a dog from a black person and a black breeder, because I go to anyone else, I feel like a little self-conscious about it. But imagine having that space where it's like, man, I don't gotta worry about that. There's a place for that, because that person, I mean, there was one black guy that won the Best in Show, the Westminster, and I was like, he had a poodle, and I'm like, yo, go, like, do your thing, like, you know what I'm saying? You make space for it. And then the next person comes in line, and maybe they go as far as you, they go a little further, but there is space for you, no matter what facet of life you choose to go.
I've had people tell me like, oh, you know, I started doing, you know, food related things because I seen, you know, you're having success with the wings, and I'm like, I love that, because at the end of the day, we're not gonna stop eating. People can eat my wings and eat your food too. It's not like one day they're gonna wake up and say, you know what, I don't want to eat anymore. I'm gonna choose one, or I'm gonna eat the same thing every day. You know what I mean? So when we can learn that what I eat doesn't make you, it's not. It's we can all grow, and when we have that common goal of how does this decision that I make for myself, how does this impact my community? Because that's one thing that I think some of the black men before us did fall short, where they didn't understand how some of the great decisions they made affected their communities, whether it be their direct families, whether it be their auxiliary communities in their professions, their jobs, or how it made the rest of a black men community look. Let's be real. If we all thought to ourselves in our head right now, what is one black man who has made a lot of black men look bad? Don't say it out loud, but we can all think of one, right? Because sometimes there's too many. So we do need to take it upon ourselves, and I understand that it's not my job, but it is our jobs as black men to take it upon ourselves to be better black men than the one before us. And the fact of the matter is, you may not want to do it. It's a tougher task per se, but it's what we have to do to advance.